Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. And today I wanted to talk about my Enduro 3. So I last ended my Garmin series was when I got rid of my Phoenix 7X and decided to make this one kind of my go-to watch, and I added the Forerunner to it as a way to kind of have both. And I'm a huge fan of the Instinct primarily for its visibility. So why did I get the Enduro 3? Well, curiosity mainly, but the part that I really wanted to check out was the screen. So one of the big changes with the new series of Enduro 3 and the Phoenix 8 is that they removed the solar that covered the whole screen. So essentially now you're just seeing the screen in its raw format, outside the sapphire glass, where before there was a film over it, which obviously disrupted visibility, and that was my biggest complaint with the Phoenix or these MIP displays is its kind of visibility. I've always thought the Instinct was much better, and for that reason I've always gone back to it. But when they removed it, I got curious, so I figured I have to try it just to see if it maybe could win me over, because there's a lot I do miss about the Enduro slash Phoenix over the Instinct. So the first part to talk about is the screen. Is it better? Yes. That little reddish kind of tint is gone, but is it as good as the Instinct? Unfortunately, no. The Instinct is still more legible. The display obviously is more legible, but in part is the faces. So one thing that's disappointing about the Enduro and probably the Phoenix, I haven't tried the Phoenix, is the face options. You would think that with a display that's already hard to see, they would maybe add some faces that are very contrast heavy to make it easier, but they don't. And on top of that, the face selection on this one is pretty crappy. So if we go into the watch faces, where did I end up going here? So if we go into the watch faces, if we go back to the top, so these are the stock ones that they gave you. So they gave you this one. I'll go this one first. So this watch face has some promise, but the issue is that you cannot change the minutes to a solid color. You're stuck with this outline pattern, which again, visibility sucks. With a white background, I found it to be better than with a black background. But again, minutes, I can see the hour pretty well, but the minutes you can't see. So not the best display option here as well. The other one they give you is this one. The problem with this one is that the time is way too small. This one's actually got promising. This one I thought maybe could work, but once again, you're limited to what color you can make the minutes. This is kind of like the lightest color I could find. And then you can't change these. So you're stuck with your VO2 max and you're maintaining consistently, which is kind of, I don't like. So that watch face kind of sucks. So that left me kind of going into the store to try to find one. And the best one I could find is this one called Big Easy, or this one SC8. So I'm kind of going between the two. These actually, I think, are by far the most visible ones, and it's a shame that Garmin isn't smart enough to figure that out, that with these watches you really should include a display or a watch face that is basically just black and white to make this thing much more legible. Because that's the issue I had with all these watches, is that when you're looking at your wrist kind of from a little bit of a angle in a, I would say dark room, but not a bright room, you kind of really have to make an effort to see it, where with the Instinct you can see it. So that was the main reason why I kept the Instinct over the Phoenix, because after all, telling time is its priority. So these aftermarket watch faces have made it better, but again, it's kind of a big miss on Garmin's side that no one there is clever enough, which makes me think that they themselves aren't wearing these watches, because anyone who wears this watch with the MIP display would have the same issue with visibility, that you need a really kind of contrasted watch face to be able to easily see the time. So that's kind of how I solve for that one. I kind of go between this one and that one. This one's called the Big Easy. So this one's the one I'm using the most right now, and it's actually not bad. You can actually make out the time without having to, turn on the display. And again, maybe it's just me, but that's one thing I like about these watches, is they're always on display, so I want to be able to see them. That's one thing I don't like about this watch, is I don't want to have to flick my wrist every time I want to see it. So I like these MIP displays so they can just be on all the time, and this is why the Instinct is still kind of the champ from a display standpoint, because it's the most visible, but I feel like Garmin can solve the issue. If they just create a black and white face with kind of bold time, it would solve it. But the other part that kind of frustrates me with the Garmin is that they have some better watch faces from the other watches, but you have to pay for them. So if you go to the App Store, you can buy like the stock faces from like the Enduro or the Phoenix or some of the other watches, but you have to pay $5 for the watch face. So you've already spent $1,000 on a watch, and then they're going to nickel and dime you for $5 for a watch face that they already have. So that's my kind of rant on the display. So in summary, is the display better, improved? Yeah, it's definitely better than the previous generations, but it's still not as good as the Instinct. So that's that. Battery on this watch is amazing. It's pretty much, I feel like, on par with the Instinct. I haven't done any kind of like official test to prove that, but just going off of feeling, both these watches just kind of feel the same. Like I can go weeks on battery usage, especially now because right now I'm in Chicago, so it's winter, so I'm confined to basically just lifting weights and doing my elliptical, so not using the GPS a lot. Come spring, summer, when I get back into cycling, then maybe with the GPS in use, I could have maybe a better representation of it, but battery life on this thing is amazing. Another con about the Enduro is the lugs. You don't have dual lugs, and it makes it virtually impossible to remove these spring bars. So if you wanted to try a different watch band, you really can't. It's impossible to get these out because you don't have the lug hole, the jeweled lugs like you do in this one, where you can push out the pin. So not sure why they did it like that, but that's what they did. So you're kind of stuck with this watch band, to be honest. Not stuck with this one. You can still pull this one out, but if you wanted to put on like a rubber one, you can't. Any kind of watch band that requires you to remove these bars, you're kind of SOL. And it's also 26 millimeters, which makes it very difficult to find other watch bands. And I also think 26 is a little too thick. I'm pretty partial to 22, I think is a good size. So I tried to find some spring bars, but again, because it's 26 millimeters, you don't have a whole lot of options for some fat spring bars, because you got to get some fat ones to have the strength. And 22, obviously, there's plenty of options, but 26, I haven't quite found anything. Because if I can find some 26 millimeter bands, then what I would do is take a pair of some shears and just cut this to remove it, and then buy one that's got that's more for like watches, that's got little rivets here for you to kind of push down on. But this one goes end to end, so when I put my tool in there, it's like impossible to get off. So another design by Garmin that I'm not a big fan of. What else do we talk about this watch? So the price. The reason I actually got the Enduro over the Phoenix is the price. This is basically the Phoenix, Enduro, whatever. It's the same watch. I actually would have much preferred the Phoenix 8, the smaller size. I'm not a big fan of the 51 millimeter. And this one's a little chunky. So I would have much rather prefer the Phoenix Solar 8. But, for what, $250 or so cheaper, this is by hands down the better option. Unless you truly need those diving features in the speaker, which I think is a gimmick, this one was a no-brainer to get. So that was kind of the plus of it. Now, as far as kind of how it performs, it's lighter, but not, I feel like, I don't know, kind of in the hand test, I feel like the Instinct feels a little lighter, but this one does feel pretty light once you have it on the wrist. You don't have a lot of like jiggling. It is a little top, heavy because it's so thick, but I don't feel like I have the usual issue with the Garmin's is that because they're so, not the Garmin's, with the Phoenix line, is because they're heavy, you kind of get more, you're more prone to gain movement, which can interfere with its readability of your heart rate, where the Instinct I've always found to be a little bit more stable. Like this one's perfect. You know, the thickness of this one is perfect, super light. You know, that one's perfect. This one actually, if you notice, I got kind of my own custom band on here. And the reason for this is that at this point, this is my sleep tracker. So one of my biggest issues, obviously, with Garmin is I can't sleep with a watch, let alone this giant watch. So I've never been able to sleep reliably with a watch. Sometimes I can, sometimes I can. Sometimes I'll wake up at night, take it off. So I've always had a difficulty collecting sleep data. So I've actually turned this one into my sleep tracker. So with this band, what I do is I actually put this around my ankle, and for the past probably 3-4 months, that's just what I do with it. I put it at, you know, pre-bed, I put it on my ankle, take whatever ones on my wrist off, and then this becomes my sleep tracker. And it's been working well. It tracks it very well. I'm still wearing I still have a Whoop device, so I have like a bench way to compare them, and they're pretty, you know, consistently the same as if I was wearing my wrist. So yeah, that's been my sleep tracker, and it's fairly light and thin, so it doesn't bother me on my ankle. And actually, that's what I'll also do if there's ever a time where I can't wear on my wrist, or if I want to wear one of my mechanical watches, I'll put this on my ankle, and it works well. So this is kind of my new ankle watch. Again, I wish Garmin would create like a Whoop-like option where you can something wear discreetly, but they keep making their watches bigger and heavier, which is kind of the wrong direction. I feel like they have, what, 30, 40 thick watches. It would be good if they maybe dedicated one to this, you know, take one of your watches that you have and scrap it, replace it with a band. So yeah, that is kind of my rant on that. So overall, you know, kind of to summarize, I know I've kind of been all over the place with this video. You know, I think it's a great watch. I'm still kind of getting used to it, the size, the display. You know, obviously there's, as much as I love my Instinct, I do miss the ability to be able to use some of the smartwatch features, like to be able to go through my notifications, to go through, you know, some of the data on here. It's just much easier to do this on here than it is on the Instinct. The touch screen, the color display, you know, it just makes it, you know, much easier if you want to kind of dive in and look at stuff, where on the Instinct it's a little, you know, you're working with buttons, it's a little slower. So I guess it's doable if you had to, but it's just much easier to do this on one of the other watches. So like I said, yeah, it's doable, but I seldom do on this one. Like this one I really treat as just like a G-Shock, right? I just use it for time and basic stuff. I seldom ever go down the glances unless I really need to see something. I'd rather go on my phone. Where on this one, I'll often check on here before I even go on the phone to kind of check stuff out. So I'm, you know, happy to have this functionality back, and I really hope that this wins me over the Instinct, because I do like those changes, the being able to interact. Again, the drawback always is the display, telling time. And while I don't think it could get any better at this point since they removed the filter, I think the way to solve that is with a good watch face. I mean, if you can just someone can make a watch face that's just pure black and white, I think it'll work. Like I said, some of these come close. Like this one's not bad. I do wish this one was just solid numbers, you know, but this one isn't bad either. I do like this one. I just wish the numbers were a little bit more bolder, so it'd be easier to see, but I'm kind of going, like I said, between the two to see which one I like better, but those have been the two best I've found so far going through the IQ store. Anyway, this went on actually much longer than I thought it would, but just wanted to kind of say that I am back on the Phoenix / Enduro train, and I am gonna do my usual, run it for a few months and then eventually come to a point where one has got to go. And we'll see which one it is. But oh, the Instinct 3 that came out, I think, is kind of unimpressive, so no plans of getting that one. It's really disappointing that they didn't really kind of go all out with the Instinct 3 and actually make it a meaningful upgrade. I mean, it's still got the same heart sensor as this one. I just don't see any reason to upgrade to the 3 from the 2X. Zero reason. I'm not an AMOLED guy, so that's unappealing to me. So I'll continue to be using, I'll wait for the Instinct 4 before I upgrade from this one. And then the flashlight, that's another welcome feature back. So that was actually one of my issues with the Forerunner. I actually like this watch a lot from like the comfort. It's super comfortable. It's so light and thin. But my only two issues with this watch are, one, I'm not a fan of the AMOLED screen. I just don't like it. You know, I don't have to keep messing with it to see it. But no flashlight. That's the other part. So, you know, if there was a flashlight, I'd like this one more. Or if this one came in like a AMOLED or a non-AMOLED screen MIP display, this could be a good one. Because this one's actually very comparable to like the Phoenix. It's got the maps. It's got a lot of stuff. Just not a fan of the AMOLED display. I don't know why. I don't like it. Actually, I don't like it. I just prefer the other one. But the flashlight. But this one's actually a good watch as well. But anyway, that concludes today's video. I'll probably be back in the next few days once I am going to try to figure out how to replace the watch band on here. I'm trying to see if I can find a thick 26mm spring bar and then remove this one. And I did order a new one off Amazon. Very limited options with this kind of single whatever. I don't know. There's a lot of ones that have double Velcros on each side. I have several of those, but for one that works off a single, not many options actually, to be honest. I couldn't find a whole lot to choose from it. So I did find one that I ordered. I'll test out, and a screen protector that I've been meaning to put on as well, because I've been going without it and it's so far so good, but you know, I don't want to risk it and scratch it. So I'll probably put a screen protector on it as well. Anyway, that's it for this one. I'll be back probably in a few days or a week once I have figure out how to get a new band on and a screen protector as well. Until then, take care and talk soon.